Welcome everyone to an edition of Inside the Dugout. I'm Ron Smolen. I'm here with three members of the Siena Heights University Baseball Club. How you doing, fellas?
Good.
All right. Why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are, where you're from, your position, and what your majors is.
Ben Weadock, senior pitcher from Southside Fort Wayne, Indiana. Business management major, concentration on accounting.
My name's Christian Smolen, no relation to the host. I'm from Muskegon, Michigan, a little bit north of Muskegon, Michigan, actually. I'm a senior pitcher as well, and I am a biology major.
My name's Brock Olmstead. I'm a senior catcher from Petersburg, Michigan, and I'm an education major with a business minor.
All right. Well, good to hear that, fellas. It'd be interesting to see what you're going to do with those majors here at the end, maybe as we get going. So, great season last year. Thanks, you guys got into the tournament. First time since 2012. So it's been a while. So it'd be interesting on what each of you, what you thought was a highlight, like from a team perspective, maybe what game or what memory that you have, and then a personal highlight from each season. So I'm going to start with Brock way over in the corner there. What was something that you remember from the season that you take home, and then what was a personal highlight for you?
Yeah, I've got two things that come to mind for the team that I think really were like the beginning of what we thought we were capable of. The first one was down in Florida on our spring trip, our tournament game in the Warner tournament against Cumberland's. That was a really fun game. Cumberland's, I think they were ranked number 9 at the time in the country. Mm-hmm. And they came out hot, and we answered back the whole game, and it was a tight game all the way up until the end. They walked us off, but we really started to see what we were capable of as a team.
You saw some heat in that game, didn't you? Some dudes were pitching pretty hard.
Yeah, their staff was really good. They were very solid, and their whole lineup 1 through 9, they could hit the ball, so they were putting balls in play pretty well. But Chase Molnar went out there and he threw a great game to start us off, and then the bullpen came in strong. So that was really the start of what we knew we were capable of.
I saw a couple of those guys. I mean, all the players are probably about the size of Ben right here. They were like big dudes, and they were like red, white, and blue. They're from Kentucky, actually.
Yeah,
I'm
they
like
had
Kentucky,
cool
so
uniforms.
World
Series team too.
Yeah.
Made all the way to the World Series.
And you guys, I think it was like a 9-8 game or something.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was a heck of a time down in Florida.
Yeah.
So what about you, Christian?
Or I think Brock said he had something else too.
Oh, I apologize.
Oh, no. Yeah. The other one was just when we were on the hunt to make the tournament towards the end of the regular season. It was getting down to the wire. We had a few big games we needed to win leading into our second to last series, and we took game number 1 from Uno at home, and Uno was the best team in the conference at the time. And that was big, leading us into the tournament.
Was that when Matt Love was pitching that game?
Matt Love threw an absolute gem that game.
Yeah, it was a complete game, wasn't it?
Complete game. Yep. And from there we just knew what we were capable of.
Is that Matt Love's real name, or is that his stage name, you think?
I mean, that's his real name, but that could pass off as a stage name too. That's a heck of a name right there.
It is a heck of a name. So, and then a personal accomplishment, do you remember from last season, a game that sticks out for you?
The one that I think of in particular was honestly just the Cumberland's game. I was fortunate enough to have a good day at the plate that day, put a few hard balls in play, and it was more so just fun to just compete against them. So I remember that one the most.
Okay. Finally, after I got my co-host here for the podcast, Kristen, would you want to go next?
Yeah. So for what I would say, like one of like the biggest team things that I really enjoyed was probably like the entire Easter weekend. On Thursday, we came out and we took 2 from Rochester. That wasn't expected, but it still felt good to get those wins. On Friday, we had a team meal at Asian buffet that I think really, a lot of camaraderie was built there and really locked us in. Because then we went Saturday, we went to play an Aquinas team that was pretty good. I remember the year before they swept us 4-0, and maybe one of the games were competitive. And we came out facing their number 1 who had like a 1 ERA, 1-2. and the bats just lit them up. And it was just the vibes in the dugout was electric. And winning those 2 games, you know, Coach K, I even saw him tear up when he was talking to us in the post game because he was so happy. It was just a really, like, one of the highlights of the season for me, just as a team.
Anything personal for you?
For me personally, it's probably been when we were in the hunt. We were playing Cleary in a game that I believe was rescheduled, games that were rescheduled because it was too cold or it was rainy. And it was a close game. It was like an 11-10 game. And I got the call to come in. And I came in, and I might have hit the first 2 batters, but I did get the job done. I went for 2 1/3, and I got credited with the win and gave us a big win that helped us eventually make the tournament.
That was after a 0-13 stretch, I believe, too.
Yeah, so that was a big.
That's right. You guys had a run there where you guys started out hot. Now I'll get to you in a second, Ben. But you guys started out hot. Remember, you came back from Florida. You knocked out a bunch of wins, and then you had one of those. Unfortunately, like in baseball, where you had a run where you lost a few in a row, and it was like you couldn't get a win, and then that Cleary game actually you kind of broke the streak. So I remember that it was tough. All right, the young man from south side of Fort Wayne.
I think so. I mean, the Florida trip, I think last year was really what I think boosted our season. And the first memory, one of 2 memories down in Florida, was Morningside, the Luke Olson breakout game. And that was, I mean, it's hard to have a dugout presence when you were playing like on a Little League type dugout where the fences cover everything and you can't really like peek your head out, especially when the umpires are yelling at you.
I remember that.
But it was definitely a game that it was 2-1, so it was close the entire time. Just like, though, along with the Cumberland's game, it's just those are games where everybody's involved in, and it's really nice to be part of those because sometimes, especially when you get in those double headers in conference, it gets kind of monotonous and you can kind of lose like focus during the game. But those were games that game in particular was something where everybody was involved, the energy was very high, and I remember when we ended up winning that game, we were going pretty nuts on the field. And then also when we were in Florida, we had won, what did we go, 2-1 in the tournament or something? The 2-1 on our pool play.
Yeah.
And we had to watch, I forget who was playing, but we had to watch the team lose in order for us to make it into the actual bracket play. And that was, we were all sitting, probably 20 of us sitting in the house down in Florida watching that game. And as soon as we found out the result, we found out we were in the tournament, we went over to Coach K's house and celebrated with them.
That was a good time.
Listen, the text out.
Yeah, we all went nuts.
That was awesome.
That was the first time we made the bracket play in there in a very long time.
A little thing about that Morningside game. So I was doing the play-by-play up in the box with some guys from Morningside, and they were ranked 35th in the country at that time. And they were going there, and they had heard about Siena Heights, and they thought they had the game in the bag, and they were so angry that they could not hit Luke. I mean, he had his stuff going, and you should have heard them going up, and they were making all kinds of excuses, and it was just so fun to kind of watch that game develop and see how it went, and winning a 2-1 ball game was really awesome. So it's as we move on a little bit here, I love your talking a little bit about stories, and if you've ever been part of a ball team, whether it's college or high school, particularly collegiate, there's always stories to be had. And talk about Florida. You talk about, you guys know you've had plenty of fundraising trips, long bus rides down to Kentucky, whether it be Kentucky or any other places. I want to hear some stories that you guys can share. That maybe I may give a smile or two that you want to talk about. Does anyone want to kind of bring up a story that you may have in Florida?
In Florida?
Yeah. Any Florida? Any stories you want to say Florida or other stories that you can think of? Any locker room stories?
How about the early morning Kentucky trip?
Oh my goodness.
God.
Yeah, I remember that one pretty vividly. So we left. So I'll give you my point of view for that one.
Okay.
So we leave the house probably 3:30 or something like that. We had bus leaves at 5, to go down because it was a Sunday and the games got canceled. Chase and I are riding together from the house. We're like full baseball uniform in the car. We make it maybe a black down and red and blue lights come on. And we get pulled over, and I think I was wearing like a do-rag or something on too. So cops come up and they're like, "What are you guys doing?" We're telling them we're going to a baseball game. And if I put myself in their shoes, they're probably like, "These guys are, what the heck are these guys on?" But they finally get us situated, get us on the way. And so we show up to the locker room, get ready, then get a text from Coach K that the bus breaks down. Maybe probably 10 minutes en route from Ann Arbor to Adrian. So we're all just hanging out in the locker room. They unlocked the trainer's room for us. People are taking naps on the beds. And it was interesting. Well, actually, that may have been Pittsburgh that happened. The bus happened. Where the bus broke down. Either way, there was a bus breakdown. But we showed up to Kentucky, and we were talking to them, and they asked us what hotel we stayed at, and we told them we drove, and they looked at us like we were nuts. But that was a fun experience.
Drove back the same day too.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good story. Any other? So how about any practical jokes that have been played? You've got to be, if you're not part of a team, any practical jokes you want to share about that whether it's from this team or past teams? Anything you want to share? That you can share.
Tabletop
Tuesday.
It's something new that I implemented this Tuesday, where I go behind people. I think everyone knows what tabletopping is, and I go behind.
Explain it. Explain what tabletopping is.
Okay, so
You might have a grandma from Alberta, Canada, listening in that don't know what tabletopping is.
So, what I did, I saw Ben do it. I think maybe a year ago, and I just remembered it. So it's where somebody gets on their hands and knees behind someone like a table, and then like the other person is having a conversation with them, and they push them over and they fall over. And I did that on Tuesday to my friend Charlo Bernal Jr., and he pretended to be hurt, so I felt bad for him, and then he wasn't hurt. And the next thing I know, about 30 minutes later, I'm just having a conversation. Some was probably passed around. I got shoved, and I also got tabletop. So now I don't know. I have to watch my back at all times to see if there's someone coming up behind me trying to push me over.
That sounds like you got to watch your back. So that's on tabletop. It's only on Tuesdays? Is that the deal?
And Thursdays too.
Oh, okay. So it's a team.
But it can't happen on any other day.
Any other day. So you got to be ready. Yeah. Okay, I like that.
I saw a few attempts at it today.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. I'm going back to Florida. I had an opportunity to play JUCO ball. I'm not sure maybe you guys know that, but I played JUCO ball. So I remember going to Florida for the very first time and seeing the clay infield, the red clay or the orange clay infield, which was a shock, or which is interesting to me. And also drive-through liquor stores. I've never seen those in Michigan. Any first things you remember when your first time in Florida that surprised you? I'll start with Brock over there.
I will say the drive-through liquor stores. There were a few. I can remember there were a few times where they were like the drive-through convenience stores.
Yeah.
I have not really seen those before, other than just a regular gas station.
That's a good answer. Coach K's listening in, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, just the regular convenience stores. I can think of those. Seen a few of those down there. Some of the rest stops on the way down there too. Like once we got more down south, those were a new experience for me. Just with the huge food courts and like a gas station combined with a food court. And I know that's quite not very exciting, but for me that was a pretty new thing to see. I haven't seen rest stops that much. So,
yeah, they don't have very nice rest stops here in Michigan.
Oh, well.
How about in Fort Wayne? Do they ever have rest stops? They have rest stops in Fort Wayne?
Rest stops? No. I mean, that's basically, you just call that the side of the highway.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
They have much infrastructure in Indiana.
They have me. That's about all.
Is that what it is?
I'll tell you, the one thing about Florida, though, that I did notice when we were down there, their roads are beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, it's probably because all the cars are stopped on them at all times.
that's true.
But going down there and coming back here, you notice that those roads they don't have potholes in them, so they don't have the weather like we do. That's one thing I did notice while we were down there.
Anything about the fields down there that you noticed? I mean, when I went down, there was no turf fields. We didn't play any turf fields. You guys had beautiful turf fields, but I just was wondering if you noticed anything different about that.
Because if you ask Thomas Backway, he would say that they usually don't have trees overhanging the fences.
Oh, I remember that. I remember that.
Yeah. Took away a home run.
Yeah, I remember that. That was a
Got
night
thrown
game.
out.
Yeah, it got thrown out.
Yeah, so why don't you guys tell the story? People don't know the inside story. Tell the Thomas Backaway story for the people south of the border.
You got it?
You want to take this?
You want me to take it?
Go ahead.
So we were playing against a team, I'm not even sure, maybe Minnesota. And it was like our last game of the Florida trip. This was my freshman year. And Thomas smoked the ball. And it was just definitely a home run. And it hit a tree overlooking the field. And it bounced back in. And the fielders just threw it in and they tagged him out at third. And Coach Jenny was not happy about that.
I remember that, yeah. So those who do not know, Thomas Backaway is, you would not say he's a small man. He is about 6'5". First time I saw him play, 6'5". And I don't think there's ever a baseball cut, a swing that he's ever taken anything off of. You know, he gets everything he's worth. So when he hits the ball, he hits it far. He also is a defenseman when he plays hockey, plays right point, I believe, from the tar pits of Calgary. He is from. So, but anyway, so it's an inside joke regards to that. But anyways, it's a great story. Anything, Christian, you want to add to Florida?
I would say for Florida, what I noticed is just the cuisines, the wide variety of cuisines. Is unfortunately in Adrian, Michigan, we're not really blessed with much. But when I went to Florida, and every year that I've been in Florida, I've seen just like any South American or Central American food that you would want. I even went to a food truck area where there was like 50 food trucks of just any type of food that I could ever want. And I just think it's awesome. And I love trying new things. And that's probably my favorite part of Florida.
All right. That's a good answer. Good answer. So now we're going to get a little deeper question here. This kind of goes to Christian and Ben, and then Brock can answer this. So this question has nothing to do with your time playing at Siena Heights. It's time as a pitcher other than Siena Heights, because I don't want any trouble. So have you ever hit anybody on purpose? Have you ever beamed anybody on purpose as a pitcher?
Well, I don't think so.
No?
Thought about it.
Yeah, I thought about
a lot
it.
of times.
So tell me an example when you wanted to hit somebody on purpose.
Is this not Siena Heights?
Yeah, not. Well, no, it's not. You can say if you didn't hit anybody, that you wanted to hit somebody on purpose.
Okay. Well, we were playing a team where we were getting our crap beat out of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was later in the season, and we had just beaten this team, and I think they were trying to go for stats so they could get their all-conference like awards up or something, and they were just stealing bags up like 18 on them. And you're just looking around, and you come into the game, and it's like you get a short throw in there. You're just trying to get your 20 pitches and get out of the game. And there was a couple times I thought about it. Definitely had some words fall out, but that was coming. But luckily I got out of the inning before it got too out of hand. So then I was told not to when I got back to the dugout. So.
Because I know Coach K, I don't think he would he's not about that. So, no. So Christian, you?
No, just because I would, even like if I don't like the person, like I don't want them to get a free base out of it. And, maybe like sometime like in practice, if like I'm like pitching against my old friend Kenny Lehman and he's been like talking a lot of smack in the locker room, maybe I considered it, but that might have made him worse if I would have hit him. So decided not to.
Well, and Kenny is a pitcher, but you wouldn't be up to bat, so you would get a free one on him.
That is true. But I don't know. He's the type of person that would rush the mound in practice.
So Brock, one of the old adages is, as a catcher, is if you catch someone peeking, that is a reason to give someone in the ribs sometimes. You know, I was wondering, have you ever caught anyone peeking?
I have. There's been a few times where I have. Yeah. Just out of habit at this point, whenever I'm giving my signs, it's mostly paranoia, you know.
Yeah.
Not everybody peeks, but when I'm giving my signs, I'm always looking up at the guy's eyes. And there's been a few times, you know, sometimes, a lot of the times when guys will touch the plate with their bat, they'll look down.
Yeah.
And then I feel like there's definitely been some times where maybe I've misconstrued that as them looking back at my signs, just out of paranoia. I don't want anyone taking any signs, but there's definitely been 1 or 2 times where someone's...
What'd you do?
Well, from there, you know, sometimes when I let it get away from me, I'll add in little comments here and there at them behind the plate. And if it's a strikeout, then I'll say, you know, may have a word or two for them as I'm getting ready to leave. But besides that, I just try to, you know, sometimes if they'll look back, I'll call it and then shake it off, or make the pitcher shake his head a bunch of times just to mess with him or something like that.
Yeah, it's when I've coached before, even at the younger levels or the smaller levels. I mean, some coaches I had, I mean, they'll tell the batter if they catch him peeking that you're going to get one in the ribs, which is really interesting. I mean, they're pretty hot when it comes to peeking. So I just was wondering for a kind of a fun question for you fellas. So I got the next question, which is very interesting. So Brock, when you first met Christian, what'd you think of him?
Well, when I first met Christian, I'm trying to think back to freshman year. I think the first time we met was for a walleye, I believe. I believe it was during a walleye. And we didn't talk a whole lot because at the start, I wasn't the most talkative. And at the same time, Christian wasn't the most talkative. So we didn't really have too much other than, you know, the new guy introducing yourself to each other as freshmen. So from the start, I just thought Christian was just a regular nice guy, new teammate. But as time's grown, I've definitely come to know Christian a lot more the last 4 years, and it's been a pleasure. Christian's definitely a character.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So Christian, what did you think of Ben when you first met him?
Oh, Ben. I was definitely, I thought, I don't know, I definitely thought he was a great player when I saw him. I saw his giant frame, and I was like, I thought he was an upperclassman, to be honest.
You didn't think he was a basketball player? You didn't think he was
yeah, possibly. He was definitely a lot more quiet at the beginning, and he definitely went up. And I think he'll tell you the first thing I asked him is if he was a Butler fan, because I know he was from Indiana, and he looked at me like I was stupid.
So Ben, what did you think of Brock then when you first met him?
Oh my goodness, what I think of Brock. I said, this is the guy in my class. How am I going to play here? That's what I thought. The first on-field impression of Brock was, this guy's a stud, and proven out to be right. So maybe my instinct is pretty good after all. So, but other words, it's like, you know, it's stayed true to my first beliefs in him as a good guy, good teammate, just a great person all around. And it's just, you see that up front, and it's go beneath the surface, and it stays the same all throughout.
So I'm trying to keep in my mind who hasn't thought of who yet. So what did you think of Christian then when you first met him?
Oh, well, when you first asked that question, I was thinking there's 2 things in my mind, and one of them was Butler basketball, which, and I could never root for Thad Mata, who was a former Ohio State basketball coach who's now at Butler. But then the second one was our first fundraiser. I think it was down at Toledo Central Catholic. We rode in the car with Coach K and his wife and former Siena Heights Saint Ethan Lajeunesse. And Christian had his AirPods in, and my first thought is, he's probably listening to Beethoven. and then I looked at his phone and I saw it was DaBaby, and I'm like, I was a pretty big DaBaby fan at the time, so I'm like, oh, maybe this kid isn't what he looks like. And it certainly turned out to be true. He is a character, like Brock said, and it was awesome to be around him every day.
So Christian, what about Brock?
Yeah, Brock was like probably one of like the last people that I actually interacted with on the team, just because I was mainly just around like the pitchers, and that was just kind of like who I was comfortable with at first, you know, being a team with 50 new people. But I think as soon as I believe, did you call me at spring or releasing the pen
Yep.
when it sounded like
It
gunshots?
sounded like gunshots in that ball.
Yeah, I just knew he was a great catcher, and as the more I get to know him, he's a really, really funny guy, and I can make, a lot of country jokes to him because he's from the country, and he's just good at responding to my jokes and giving me some material.
So, Brock, I think you haven't talked about Ben yet, have you?
Yeah, no, I have not.
All right. Well, if you want, you can. Otherwise, we can defer.
Yeah, maybe I'll pass on this one. No, I'll get into this one. First time I met Ben too, I relate to Christian here in the fact that Ben's a big guy, and I'm of a pretty small stature. So that's like the first thing you notice about Ben when you meet him. And like Christian said, he was definitely a little more quiet back then than he is now. But as time progressed that freshman year, like it was pretty evident that Ben was a really good pitcher. And then from there, you could tell when Ben kind of started to blossom and grow a little bit more and become a little more outspoken. And yeah, I think he's still living that out, 4 years later. It's been great.
So that kind of leads me to the next question, and I think you guys answered a little bit. So obviously, Ben, when I'm calling a game or I'm at a game, Ben and Matt Love are probably the most two outspoken people in the dugout. Hearing them chirping. So who would be the second one now that Matt's moved on? Who would be the second most outspoken person, would you say? Or who are the most outspoken people in the dugout thinking this fall?
Goodness, there's so many faces. I mean,
Who's going to be your partner? Who's going to be the Batman? Who's going to be the Robin to being the Batman?
you could probably put Devin Eads up there, I think.
For sure.
That's
Be a
who comes
good
to
one.
mind for me.
Yeah.
For me, it would probably be, I would say behind the camera, I'd say Chase Molnar is a pretty big one. I feel like every time like someone will hit a hard hit ball that gets caught, he always yells, "Way to get weak contact," like right in like the runner's ear.
I'll give you another one too. Andrew Baum. He could get away with murder the way he delivers his jokes. He lets them know he knows he has everything timed up perfectly. He knows how to get away with saying things that don't sound like harmful, like chirps and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's like if you know the game of baseball, like, that was a dig at you, and he's pretty good at that. And he's been around the game a very long time, so he knows a thing or two about how to chirp a guy.
It's kind of the best part of college baseball compared to, let's say, high school baseball is the chatter between dugouts when you matter. So when you're on the mound, let's say Christian or Ben or even Chase behind the camera, does that get to you at all?
No, I don't. You kind of don't really hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's something you're able to block out. And, I mean, if it does, you have guys behind you that'll back you up.
It bothers me. It bothers me only some. There's only like most of the time I am like pretty like in that flow state of not hearing anything, but pitching against Cleary, they were pretty irritating. And then there was when I was a sophomore, there was a JV game at Uno where I had already thrown probably 40 pitches that inning, and I had to go back out there because our first baseman caught the ball but stepped off the bag. So the runner was safe. That would have been the third out of the inning. And someone from Uno yelled, like get back out there or something. And that just really made me angry. Like, I thought about generally flipping them off. Like, that's how mad I was. Because I was just ear kids. It was like my 45th pitch of the inning. And it was just a frustrating time. But most of the time I don't hear. But those were two times where I was actually irritated by the opponents.
Yeah, because if you get irritated, then you lose.
Exactly.
You lose your concentration. I guess even though Chase, I'm not sure if we hear have a mic on him, so I guess I'll add Chase. Or we can save it for your podcast. It's gonna be a simple. It's gonna be you and Coach K as a podcast. Is that okay? You two together? Yeah. Well, we'll probably save it for yours. They probably wouldn't be able to hear you anyway. So speaking of Coach K and Coach Jennings, any type of stories that you guys want to add? Any funny stories? I'm sure you don't have any being your fourth year with those guys. I'm sure Ben doesn't have any stories he wants to add. Any funny stuff that you want to add?
No good ones.
No good ones?
I got a good one. I'm pretty good at like trolling people. Like that's I think Ben and Brock would agree that I do like to troll people, and that doesn't stop with the coaches for me. I obviously have to be a bit more selective. So with Coach K, I believe 2 years ago, I wanted to talk to him about bring up like someone that I knew would like make him mad. So I asked him what he thought about. I called Eric Gagne. So Eric Gagne is a pitcher who only pitched 1 year on the Red Sox in like the twilight of his career. So I went up to him and I asked him what he thought about Red Sox legend Eric Gagne. He said, and he was like taken aback. He said, "Red Sox legend? Are you kidding me?" And he made me clean up like the cages after that.
I heard Coach K is quite the Bruce Springsteen fan. Is that true, Krista?
What does that mean?
Well, I thought you were riding with him and he was listening to Bruce Springsteen singing along one time.
Yeah, a little bit. He definitely likes those older music, which there's nothing wrong with that. I don't know if he'd like the music that I listen to for sure.
Yeah. How about Coach Jennings? Any Coach Jennings stories that you guys have to relate to? Any ones that you can share?
Oh, yeah. I remember my sophomore year, me and Adrian Grinstead were playing JV, and we were going to the varsity game to dress with Coach Jenny and who was it? Probably Trevor Willis at the time, I think, was our GA. So he was in the car with us. And I'll tell you what, he drives his car like he is back in the Air Force. There's no lanes. There was straight to the destination. So it was pretty scary being in the wheel with him sometimes. But like I will say it was probably an hour and 20-minute car ride. And there was not a moment of silence because it seemed like he had about 30 questions lined up and waiting in that car. And it was nonstop questions and talking with him.
Did you learn something, Elton?
Yeah. I mean, I learned I learned that he likes to talk, but over the years with Jenny, he always has something smart to say, and you always learn something about him.
Well, he was a D1 player.
Oh, yeah. Exactly.
Played second base for Airport.
That's when they didn't work out back in the day. They didn't know what a weight was.
Coach K was a second baseman. Prowson, a couple middle infielders. So how'd you like to play second base for Siena Heights? It'd be tough.
Yeah, it would. I think second base is probably a position where it's probably been the best position I've seen played at the collegiate level. It's second base for Siena Heights. We always have somebody that's good there. Sure. Probably as Coach K's, maybe his experience at second base.
Yeah, could be. So speaking of playing at the collegiate level, what do you think can you tell me the difference between obviously, playing from high school to collegiate baseball, or what's the kind of the challenges you guys seen? Obviously you guys are seniors now. Maybe you think back to playing travel baseball or kind of making that transition over to collegiate baseball. How about Brock? You want to go first?
Yeah, the main one that I can think of is the game can speed up on you a bit more than you're used to. I can think back to, the first few times that I played as a sophomore up on varsity in Florida, remember like having to take some deep breaths now and then to like slow myself down, because getting so used to the game in high school is a little different. Seems a lot faster paced once you get to college, and everybody around you is, a lot better because you're getting the best guys from high schools coming to play on the team together. So that can slip away from you really quick if you're not careful. It'll speed up on you.
Mm-hmm. Christian or Ben, you want to go next?
For me, it'd probably just be the time commitment. I was just playing baseball in high school. You only really have your spring season, and like maybe you'll do a little like an hour a week work, with the team. And it's not even really, you're not really even allowed to do that. But in college, where we have fall ball, we have all our fundraising obligations, our team lifts, and then in the winter, going at 6 a.m. every day. It's just definitely a lot more time spent towards baseball, and you have to adjust to your time management skills to be successful in the classroom and still keep getting better at baseball.
I piggyback off that. It's definitely one of the biggest differences is like you go from your 2 to 3 month season in high school or your travel ball season, but you're playing with a couple different teams, to now it's like it's a job here, and it's it's every day 2 hours a day minimum, 12 hours a day when we're playing actual games. And you're with the team, you're with the guys that entire time. But not only is it like a job in terms of time aspect, but it's also like you got your head coach who this is his job. And it's like it's a very different attitude compared to your high school team where it's just like it's a teacher that's just coaching you guys. It's like, but this like there's a very big difference in how you have to carry yourself and how you have to play and the pride that you have to take in the game.
Yeah. That's a good way of putting it, fellas, because you may have some younger guys listening on here and what the difference is. You know, I think we all know people who at the high school level or even at the travel ball level had the skill and the chops to play at the college level, but never did or never quite made it after the first year, because it takes more than just talent really to be a collegiate athlete. As you may know, only 7% of people actually make it from high school to play college. So you guys are one of 7% of people actually make it, you know. So how did you guys end up at Siena Heights, other than your car? So Ben, how'd you make it here? I mean, how did you find out about here and how'd you make it?
Well, I was just, I threw like 74, 75 in high school. So I was just sending out emails to everybody, give me a chance. And I remember I went to a religion class in high school, and we're not supposed to have our phones on us, but I got this email, as John Kolozinski emailed me back, and I remember his response to my email was like, "What made you interested in Siena Heights?" My first thought is, "What the heck, Siena Heights?" So I didn't remember sending that email, so I looked it up, and the reason I sent it out is because they had a sport management program. That's what I was interested in going into. So I responded back with that, and then went on a visit here. He got me on a visit pretty quickly. Then got an offer from him, and he was honestly one of the more like by the book, like upfront with you coaches that like I've been with. It was no like BS or like beat around the bush type of stuff like you sometimes get with recruiting with other coaches. It did seem very upfront, and he was very honest, and he also checked in on me like a lot more than any of the other coaches. And I also, if you visit the campus in the summertime, it is very pretty. But you visit it in the wintertime, the wind hits you, it's not as pretty. So I did fall in love with the campus and the bricks layout, the architecture that was here. It was a very beautiful place.
Christian?
Yeah, for me, I think they saw me play at Battle Creek, and I got an email from former coach Connor Parcells, and he wanted me to come down for a visit. He also called me on the phone. And yeah, I had a very similar experience on my visit that Ben did, where I did enjoy the campus. You know, this was before COVID, so I was able to get that really full visit in. And then, yeah, Coach K was very upfront, and I asked him a lot of questions that I thought he all answered very well. And then, just looking, I'd also wanted to make sure if I'm going to a college that they have a good program that I can study. And from what I read about Siena Heights biology program is they had a 95% match into professional school for their graduates. So that kind of sealed the deal with me with going to Siena Heights.
And Brock?
Yeah, for me, Adrian's close to home, about 25 minutes from here. So I had known about, Siena Heights and Adrian College and a lot of the schools around here for a long time. And then my two older brothers, Reed and Cal, both went to Siena Heights and played baseball for Coach K a few years back. So I was familiar with the program, familiar with Coach K. Back when they used to still have the prospect camps, I went to that, I think my junior year of high school. Had a few offers, looked at, went around a few different schools and everything. Came on a visit here, and then I think I ended up committing November of my senior year here, and everything just kind of lined up right, and it fell into place, and here we are. Yep.
Any other sports you guys play or are good at, Brock? Anything else you play?
I was a big basketball guy in high school.
Really?
Basketball and baseball, yeah. I don't look the part of the basketball thing.
Were you like a forward or center?
I was a point guard.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's shocking.
Yeah.
I'm shocked at that.
Yeah. But yeah, I was big into that. There was a while when I was a kid, end of elementary school into middle school, I was more into basketball than I was baseball, and I wanted to play basketball in college. But, as I grew, I looked in the mirror a little bit and saw that I wasn't the tallest, that wouldn't be my route to take.
You weren't going to be the next Michael Jordan?
I don't think so.
coming out of your high school? Okay.
I mean, I guess we'll never know. 'Cause I didn't get
That's
it.
right. You never did it. You never did it. So,
But no, yeah. I made the right choice.
so Ben,
I remember played probably one summer of soccer when I was
really?
maybe 5 or 6. Showed up for practice first day actually, and we had no coach. So my mom and dad had to take over as our head coach, and I lasted about a year because every time we lost, I'd cry and throw a fit. And I remember I want to get my after game snack because of it. So
Give the ice cream in, take it to the ice cream or the dairy treat.
no, wouldn't get because I'd be sitting in the car crying because we couldn't win a game that I couldn't tell you what happened during it, but I know that we lost. So.
You would have been a good goalie.
Probably did. Big, strong frame. I don't know. Yeah, I wouldn't want to do all the running they do.
No.
I also I swam for 3 years in high school as well. My mom was the swim coach then. She was the coach my junior year because the same thing happened where we didn't. My sister was a really good swimmer. She was coming in the year after, so they were about to shut the swim program down because they couldn't find a coach. And so my mom stepped in and took over that. So I wasn't the best swimmer, but I didn't drown. So
No basketball?
so I played up until my 8th grade year, and I was just like I was 5'6" my freshman year of high school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So sadly, I didn't have my growth spurt until probably about my junior year. Yeah.
Because every kid in Indiana plays basketball, kind of like hockey in Canada, right?
Yeah. It's my mom would tell me stories. She went to high school with Sean Kemp, who was former Seattle Supersonic, and they used to sell at the old Colts stadium for their state championships, and that was like basically as big as the Final Four is now. So that was definitely it's definitely a sport that's big in Indiana.
And Christian, about you?
Yeah, so I played tennis in high school. Picked it up my 8th grade year, but the hand-eye coordination of tennis and baseball, it carries over pretty well. And I found that serving was a lot like pitching, so I was able to pick it up pretty well, and I enjoyed tennis. I might even probably enjoyed my high school tennis a lot more than my high school baseball experience.
Why is that?
We were a good tennis team, and we won a lot. I played all 4 years of tennis. We only got 3 years of baseball, and then practices for tennis. It's just basically like playing games, whereas like baseball practice can get monotonous, and it's a lot of running. In tennis, we just played tennis and like played serving games, and so it was just an enjoyable time with my friends.
Didn't you have an offer to play college tennis?
I did have an offer to play at Grace Christian, who we have played in baseball and we beat up on. So probably wouldn't have been the greatest. I probably wouldn't have, had the same success that I did in high school. But, I was happy to get an offer. But, I think it worked out that I ended up playing baseball and not college tennis.
So who's the funniest guy in the team?
Looking?
Well, that would be part 2, but who's the funniest guy? Who makes you guys laugh the most?
I think we're sitting next to him on the couch here. I would honestly say that it is definitely a toss-up between these two. I fully believe that Ben and Christian are 2 of the funniest guys in their own ways, too. Ben's more of like the outspoken, like funny all the time type of thing, and Christian's the well-timed, witty remarks, and somehow always has a joke about some little niche subject that you would not expect to hear about. He knows how to bring that up. And Chase Molnar is another big mention. I see those 3 as 3 of the funniest.
As you guys know, humor is a really important part, but you'll always remember when you leave from the team aspect. Who's the quietest guy? What'd you say?
Oh. Goodness, I don't know if we have many of those. I say Aiden Grintz is pretty quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is. I mean, he'll talk when you get him going, but like definitely at the baseball field, he's not the first one to talk. That's for sure.
Yeah. Who takes this game by the most serious? Would you say? Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and it's good to have too.
It's good.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's great to have. Yeah.
You want to have that. So a couple more questions left for you fellas, because we've had a really good time so far. So thinking back when you first came, maybe the last 3 years, who is the teammate or maybe alumni has left teammate that you probably were the closest to, or was really important in your development, or you really can look back and say, wow, that guy was really important to me as a teammate, or maybe took me under my wing or under their wing when I got to Adrian, or I really look forward to kind of when September came around. So who do you look back who's now not here anymore?
For me, it'd be Nolan Smeagol. I think, like one of the first few weeks I was here, he invited me and my roommate to go get like pizza. And it was just like, as soon as I met him, the dude was probably one of the funniest dudes I've ever met. And he's just like a good guy that generally cared about everyone. He was a great camaraderie guy. And, he just kind of told me how the program worked and, really told me how to expect things and, what can I expect throughout the season, how things are going to change. And he was just like a really fun dude to see with the 3 years that I was able to play with them. Just, build a lot of memories and, have a lot of good time. I think you guys would agree. Mm-hmm. Probably like one of the top camaraderie guys we had.
Definitely.
Yeah.
100%. Yep.
Who wants to go next?
Yeah, bro?
Yeah. One of the guys who comes to mind for me is Adam Wilding. Same class as Nolan Smeagol as well. Just coming onto campus, he was a guy that was always really friendly. Everybody's friend. He got along with everybody really well. I got to grow really close with him. He was the kind of guy that wore his faith on his sleeve, and that was really cool to look up to him in that way. And just really, really talented baseball player too. He was just always, it just came to him pretty effortless. Like he didn't really feel like he needed to try too much on the field. Like he was trying so hard because he was just so good, and he put in the work and he trusted that. So he was a good person to always look up to and be around.
Yeah.
Going off Smolen, I mean, Smeeks is definitely my number one, but like thinking back, that class last year that we lost, I mean, that was probably the saddest I've ever been on the last game of a season. You're with those guys for 3 years, so like, I mean, I'm never going to go into another season after this season without having a class that I've been with, and they're the classes with the longest. But I mean, on top of all the pitchers and everything that I've been here with, I'd say Kenny Lehman's probably my biggest support. Not only that, but it's definitely like a brother relationship with him, little brother, older brother.
What about like a father-son relationship?
If you were to ask our yoga instructor, was it our freshman year? She would call me Kenny's father, actually. Namaste, Kenny's father. So him and I definitely have had probably every year, our fights and our quarrels. But I just texted him actually the other day, and he was poking at me and stuff, but he said, "Love you, good night." And it's just like how our relationship's always been. Like no matter what, like on the field, off the field, we mean the best for each other. That's kind of that. He definitely was probably the person that's pushed me my limits the most. He'd probably say the same about me.
That's some really good stuff. It kind of goes to my last question that we have today, and I'm just going to speak a little bit about my own experience. So, it's been, almost 40 years since I played. Actually, a little under that, and my teammates and stuff, and those folks that are my teammates, I still have connections with and still text and message, and still to this day. I'm I live up by some of them and actually go and help some of them out, because some of them coach travel teams and do some of those things. And so many of you, or most of you, I think all three of you, maybe Brock may be doing some more things, but you're coming upon your last season. Many of you have played baseball for 17 years since you were 5.
Mm-hmm.
Most of your life, and some of us who've, haven't done it in a while, look back on it a little bit differently than you guys who've been doing it for so long. What do you think you'll miss the most after you've hung them up? Have you thought about it? And maybe start thinking about it. What do you think you'll miss the most when you finally hang them up, at least from a collegiate level? Who wants to go first?
I guess I'll go first. This is definitely something I've thought about since like the beginning of this year. It's like pick out 9 more months until this is over, 6 to 8 more months, whatever. But I think the biggest part about, especially at the collegiate level, is like you go to college and it's like different than going to a big university and not playing a sport. It's like you come here and it's like you're in a fraternity. These are guys that I've been with for more time than I've been with my family the past 4 years. These are my literal brothers that I've been with, and it's just somebody that it's like 2 to 3 hours of your day that you don't even think about anything outside of your life except for you're just in the moment. And that's something that once it's gone, you're gonna, you can't replace that. And that's definitely just the relationships and the time spent with each other that I know I'm gonna miss a lot.
Yeah, I would agree 100% with that. A lot of just the relationships and the camaraderie, and just not having the ability in the future to spend months straight hours with these guys. It's definitely going to be something that I'll miss, and I'll try my best to keep in touch, but it'll never be like the same as the real thing, and being able to compete too.
Yeah, I definitely agree. The guys is going to be the big thing for me. I think that'll be the biggest change, especially like we were just talking about the effect that some of those guys from last year's senior class had on us. Even just not seeing a lot of those guys day to day has been a change, just because that group and that class last year, there's just so many guys that I can think of that were just great to be around, and it was great to be tight with them. And so I do find myself thinking about how that's going to feel not to be around, our class and even the guys underneath us, but just how tight we've gotten the last 4 years and been around each other so much. That's definitely going to be a big change to get used to.
Well, thank you, fellas. Thank you for a great podcast. I've really enjoyed it, getting to know you guys better. Getting excited for the season coming up. We're less than, 30 days away, probably less than 3 weeks away from opening day. It's hard to believe. On the west side, we got about 1.5 feet of snow here. You guys have less snow. It's 20-some degrees, but you guys have been practicing last week or so. And it'll be exciting to get the season going. But that wraps up this session, this podcast of In the Dugout with Ben, Christian, and Brock. And until next time, we will see you again.